So the first thing I want to talk about is why, in the big picture, if all you focus on is driving traffic and looking at charts and numbers, it's great, but it's not quite enough. In fact, if you just analyze data and by clicks, it's a little bit like looking only in your rear view mirror. You're not really taking action. You're not trying out things to make it even better. You're just saying, oh, well, it looks like that worked, and who knows what could have happened if I did something else. The other point is that we're all in marketing here, and we're pretty smart people, but it's hard to predict what really works with a customer. Unless you're marketing to a customer set that's exactly like yourself, it's really hard to know what, let's say, a teenage consumer of music devices really cares about if you don't fit that profile. The third point is that even very well-educated, smart people can get it wrong, and very wrong. And so the only real way to know if an idea has merit is to put it out there and measure it and try and compare it to different options. And lastly, even what works today may not be that effective in the future. So that's why we look at testing as a continuous process. And even if you don't test, how do you decide on site design? Like really important questions. So there's a lot of characters in your company probably. You may have the hippo, which Avinash probably brought up, and I borrowed a lot of his imagery actually. The highest paid person in the room or in the organization, and he says, well, I have an MBA from Wharton. What we need here is a 2x2 matrix and these 5 bullet points, and that is going to be what's going to represent our company. And then you may have someone else in the room, in the same conference room, who's really creative and very gifted designer, has a, MacBook, an iPhone, and, all that stuff. And she says, hey, I went to the Rhode Island School of Design. We need to get rid of all those bullets, and I've developed this Flash movie last night, and it's going to solve all our problems. And then you have your customers who hit a page that they don't like, and they won't tell you a thing. They're just going to hit the back button, and they're gone. So the odds are really stacked against you, but there are ways to beat them. And hopefully we'll talk about some of those in a moment. So one of the things that I want to kind of communicate is that your site and improving your site is a continuous process. And a lot of people are great at driving traffic to their site with good SEM and SEO. A lot of people, by virtue of you being here, you probably do some good measurement and analysis of what's going on. The third element is what I'm here to really focus on, which is testing changes and implementing winners, and doing that continuously until theoretically your conversion rate is 100%, because there will always be people who could have been a customer or a lead for you who did hit the back button, and there probably were things you could have done to change that had you known. So there are a lot of tools out there. We've got AdWords and analytics to drive and measure. And Website Optimizer is all about testing. It's a fairly new product. We came out into sort of open sign-up mode in April. And we're still adding a bunch of features, but we've got some great uptake and great interest. And the kind of technology and tools that you're going to get with Website Optimizer used to be around $10,000 a month, and from other alternatives, and this is a free product from Google. So you probably have seen this page, hopefully. Does that look familiar? The landing page section of Google Analytics. It's probably one of the most important pages that you may want to consider when you look at your analytics reports. And you may find that, wow, some of these pages have a very high bounce rate. The question is like, okay, well, great. Now I look at these reports. What am I supposed to do about it? And that's where Website Optimizer comes in. And so you may say, wow, that page, maybe we should make it longer because they don't have enough information. That's why they're bouncing. No, maybe we should make it shorter because it's overwhelming the user, and we should split it out. Or maybe we should put some more testimonials on the right-hand side, or less, or the different testimonial. And you could do any number of things to, quote-unquote, improve a page, but it's really hard to know what is the right answer. And so in the old days, what would happen is you'd probably be in a conference room, the designer would mock up a few, and you kind of say, oh, that one is the one, let's go with that one. Maybe you would then go in analytics and see if the bounce rate went down after the changes, but you still don't know why. Maybe they made 5 changes, and 3 of them were really good, and 2 actually hurt your bounce rate a little bit, but is masked by the 3 improvements. Or maybe the bounce rate went down for completely different reasons, just because you had a different type of visitor hitting your site on the weekend than a weekday. So it's really unscientific unless you use a robust testing tool. Here's an example of a flower company owned by the Vermont Teddy Bear Company. And this is provided, this example was provided to us by a partner called Epic One. And what they did was they worked with this company to try and improve this page here. And they were thinking, well, you know, there's all these elements of this page. We don't know what could be better or worse. Maybe we should use a different image, or maybe we should change it to top favorites instead of bestsellers, or maybe we should put a buy now button there. And so they tried a bunch of things with Website Optimizer, and the goal is to really find the one combination that works. What's interesting is that a lot of things that they thought would do well, like the famous green buy now button, really didn't make that much of an impact. The image of a person with the product actually did help quite a bit. Here's another example of Picasa, which is a Google product, very, very high volume product. This page gets a lot of hits. And you see here that they do a lot of great things. You know, they show a picture of what the tool looks like. It says free. It looks pretty good. But when they did the testing, they said, well, we're not sure if those are the right elements. Why don't we use Website Optimizer and try different ones and then show different versions of this page to the visitors, and we see which version of the page results in the most downloads. And so this was the winning page. And it was kind of surprising. A lot of people were like, oh, I thought the importance of the image would have been really better. And I thought free would be better than try Picasa now. So we use this tool here and this technology here all the time because we know that increasing our conversion rate by 30, 40% can have a major impact on very large numbers and obviously impacting the success of the product. Here's another example. This company is called Dale and Thomas Popcorn. And they were curious about how to make their site more interesting for visitors. And they have a lot of different options. You know, they could put, well, maybe our quote from the Today Show, or maybe the quote from Oprah. When we do a spotlight, a gift in the top left corner, do we just show a text link? Do we show a big picture of 6 different pieces of popcorn? Or maybe we show a big tub of popcorn. So what they did was they used Website Optimizer, and here we are showing a screenshot of how you can preview the different versions before you launch the test. And you can basically see how we create up to 10,000 different versions of the page depending on how you set it up, and then we tell you which one did better. So let's make believe that you say, oh, yeah, of course, testing makes sense. I shouldn't guess. I shouldn't base it on opinion. I want to improve my page. Let's get physical. How do I set up a test? Sounds good. It's very simple. There's 3 big steps. You pick a page, you tag it, and you click Launch. So you go into AdWords on the top right, on the top corner, actually right beneath the Analytics tab, is a Website Optimizer link to the right of conversion tracking. If you use AdWords, you already have access to this free tool. And what we'll do is we'll walk you through. We'll say, oh, you want to start a new experiment. We say, where is the page that you want to test? Where is your conversion page, which is the page that you feel if the user hits that page, it's a good event. And then we say, okay, now we've got those. Now you're ready to add your tags. This is where you may want to bring the IT guy in if you're not comfortable with HTML, but it actually is fairly straightforward. We give you a bunch of code. We tell you exactly where to put it. And then we take you to this screen where you can type in the alternate text. So in this case, the original says, bikes are now in stock. Take 20% off. Maybe you want to think about saying, what if we just said, 2006 bikes are now 20% off? Or what if we say, get a free helmet with every bike. And you don't know. So you can type those in, and you just keep clicking add new variation until you're satisfied. And then you review your settings. And a couple weeks later, depending on how much traffic you get, you start seeing these reports. You actually see the reports immediately, but it takes us a little while to collect the data. And what you'll see here is that we show the relative improvement for each version of that page. And we say, well, you know, this version had a conversion rate of this %, and that version had a conversion rate of another %. The original is always at the top, and we tell you the probability of beating the original, the observed improvement, and then the raw data on conversions and impressions. And so you can say, oh, no more debating. This is the one that our users told us is the best. And let's stop meeting in this conference room and let our customers design this for us. Then we give you even deeper reports where we can say, well, let's say section 1, 2, 3, and 4 was your headline, hero image, call to action, and subtitle or something. We'll tell you the relevance rating. So we say, wow, you know what? Section 3 had a relevance rating of 3 of 5, meaning that whatever you did there had a big impact on conversions. Section 4, which may have been, I don't know, a little tagline under the fold, had a relevance rating of 0 of 5. And specifically, this variation, this version of the headline, had improvement of X, Y, and Z. And so it's really bringing a lot of scientific rigor to how you design your website. And you can totally just spend hours looking at these reports. It's very fascinating because what you take away then is, wow, it's all about section 3. My next experiment should be about trying even newer ideas for section 3 because that's what's moving the needle. And you notice it's not like, oh, I do one experiment, I'm done. You constantly improve it until you feel like, you know what, that conversion rate is 100%. There's no more. Everybody that hits it just ends up being a customer of ours. So let's talk a little bit about how this works. And this is going to be the most technical we get. But I did want to, for those of you who are interested, this is an example of a test page. And the yellow represents our control script. It's something that you just paste at the top. The red is the section scripts, which we use to identify the areas of the page you want us to modify or alternate. And then there's a tracking script, which is basically the same thing as your kind of standard analytics tracking script. And then you have a goal page, which is where they go when something's successful. This is usually like a thank you page. Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for submitting your contact information. Or it could be a very important page that you really want people to hit. And so what happens is, as a visitor comes to your site, they load this page. The yellow stuff, the control script, talks to Google and says, hey, I got someone that's asking for this page. Google says, okay, this is a page that's been marked for experimentation. We have 10, let's say 20 different combinations, so 20 different versions of this page. We're going to assign this person to version 7, let's say. And then it comes back to the browser. And the red stuff, the section script, basically goes back to Google and says, OK, I've now been told I'm in Combo 7. Give me the Combo 7 content. Give me the Combo 7 headline, hero image, and let's say call to action. And then the tracking script just makes a note, OK, this person saw the full Combo 7. They then do whatever. And if they end up in your thank you section, this conversion script says, hey, Google, someone hit a good page. Was he part of an experiment? And Google says, thank you. He was part of experiment 7. We're going to show that to you in the report. And you can just keep doing that. And we constantly try new things. If the same guy goes back to the page, the yellow thing says, hey, Google, I got this guy. Then we say, oh, look, there's a cookie. He's already been assigned to Combo 7. Let's show him 7 again. And if it's a new user, then we would assign him to a new one. So there's 6 different kinds of fun experiments that you can do. We're not going to go over all of them at one time in this slide. But a lot of people think, oh, testing, yeah, I've done that. A/B testing, sure, I take 2 pages, I see which one performs better. There's actually a lot more fun stuff that you can do. And so hopefully you'll find one or many of these relevant for problems that you're trying to solve. So the A/B test is the classic. This is a great test if you've not done a lot of testing before. It's a great test if you want to try different layouts. So you're like, nah, I don't want to just change a headline and change the image. I want to try the image all the way at the top and the headline right underneath it. Or I want to try 4 pictures on one version of the page and only 1 picture on another version of the page. The A/B is great. So what you do for A/B if you want to is we have a help topic about how to do an A/B test in Website Optimizer. You paste the control script at the top of the A page. Let's make believe this is the A page. Then you put the tracking script, that it was the orange one, at the bottom of these pages. And then you would also have your conversion script on your goal page. And what would happen is the visitor hits the A page. Google says, OK, he's an experiment, but instead of assigning him to a combination, we're going to say, do we keep him on this page or do we put him onto the B page? This all happens in milliseconds. And then they proceed. If they hit a conversion page, then we say, OK, this guy saw the B page. He converted, out of 100 people that saw the B page, 50 of those converted. Out of the 100 that saw the A page, only 10 of those converted. And then we tell you that information. So this is a great way to get started. Very powerful. You can set it up in like 5 minutes. As long as you have pages ready to go, you just tell us, OK, these are the pages, and then we'll split the traffic. The classic multivariate test. This is a fancy word for saying we take any page, we carve it up. Whoa. Hold on. Let's close that. We carve it up into different sections, and then we show different versions of these sections. And this one is sort of the classic multivariate. You add the control script at the top, you put the little section scripts on, put the tracking script at the bottom, and you click launch. So this is a great test if you're looking for new winning combinations that get your conversion rate as high as possible, but they'll take a little bit longer than the A/B. And you also get those advanced hot zone reports. OK, this is a good one. The split path. So here is we use the A/B implementation. And you say, well, I think you could imagine this could be like a process for a lead generation. And you think, well, we could basically ask them a lot of information and have them submit over 2 or 3 pages. And maybe this could even be 2 pages. Or we could ask them in 2 long forms. And you don't know which one's better. So you use the A/B, and we will split them into these 2 paths. Some of your visitors go here, some go here. This would be the goal page. And then we would say, wow, you know what? When you took them through this path, they just converted like, gangbusters. And this one, they never even saw the green page. They never made it through. So that's a really fun test. These are tests that once you've done your basic one-page multivariate, you may want to try that out. Any questions on this one? OK. This one's also very cool. This is where you say, well, I have a path that I know works. Let's say this were a checkout process, and you show, I don't know, a picture of the shopping cart, and then here you have a little trust thing, and then here you have something else about how your shipping is free or something, and then here's the final submit button. So you could run an experiment across 3 pages where each of these is a section, and you'd say, okay, well, show these for section 1, this for section 2, and section 3, and then we'll tell you across these 3 pages what's the optimal combination of content. So a lot of people think, oh, well, I thought there's just 1 test page and 1 conversion page. This kind of goes to the flexibility of the system where really we don't think about it that way. We see the section script. The control script will just insert the right stuff, and we'll track it. And it could be across 10 pages or 1 page. This is another cool one, the Linger. So it sounds like a drink. So basically, what happens if you don't have a specific conversion goal in mind, but maybe it's something like a flash demo or a video or something, and you want them to watch this thing. But you don't know if certain headlines will encourage people to watch this thing or to view this content more than others. So you could run a website optimizer test. And here, instead of the goal being hitting a page, the goal is the user remaining on the original page for greater than 4,000 milliseconds, right? And you can modify that. And we're actually going to be adding that to in our help section. We have a little testing strategy section that talks about all these recipes. So this is a really good one. Why? Because A, sometimes you're not really trying to sell something. Sometimes you're trying to build your brand and you want people to see certain content. B, you would have a lot higher conversion rate, so you'd get a lot more data more quickly, and you'd see results more quickly even if you don't get a lot of traffic. C, you only have to tag one page, so you may only have to give half of the brownies to the IT guy. And D, then once you figure out, oh, well, this is a page that keeps them on for a long time and they view the whole thing, the next thing to consider optimizing would be, well, what would be the next step you would want that person to take? Maybe there would be some button here that says, oh, I love the new Acura, MDX, send me a brochure, and then you could optimize that brochure sign-up page, and you could see like, okay, well, what happens if we make the form really big, really small, that kind of thing. So that's a pretty exciting one, I think. This is another interesting one. This is the do anything test. So it's like, well, I got this page. They could fill out a contact me form. They could buy something. They could just watch the video. I'm happy either way. I'm just happy to be here. Happy they didn't leave me, right? So in this case, what you could do is you could put the goal script on all of the following pages, or you can instrument the link. So basically, anytime they click on anything, it fires the conversion script, so we know that's a goal. So again, another good example of how you can really get fancy with your testing. The one thing I did want to leave you with is, yes, I'm here from Website Optimizer. I really care about number 3. But to be honest with you, if you don't do 1 and 2 and 3, you miss a lot of the efficiency in your marketing. So you've got to be driving the right traffic to your site. And you absolutely have to be in analytics, looking at what's going on. And then once you find certain pieces of content or certain things aren't happening, like you set up goal tracking and analytics and the goals it's low. Well, what are you going to do? Well, now you can use Website Optimizer and fix those pages and get people to that goal more often. So some 3 things that I would recommend that you think about, in the shower, when you're driving home, in bed, whatever. You should know what your conversion rate is. Always. And you should know what page on your site is hurting you the most. And you should know, hopefully, that that's the page you're texting next week. Because if you're not, it's like saying, well, yeah, I know there's a fire in my house, and I'm not going to do anything about it. So we've got some fire extinguishers for you, and you can take care of that. Here, I wanted to give you the option. I mentioned that there are Website Optimizer authorized consultants. Actually, see a couple in the room. Now, these guys are pros at using Website Optimizer. And if you want, you can email WOAC, Website Optimizer Authorized Consultant, at google.com with your company info and a link to your top landing page. And what I'll do, I'll get those emails, and then I will provide that to one of our partners. I'll divide the kind of contacts across our partners, and then they'll provide you with a 30-minute telephone consultation, which will basically involve them looking at your page, saying, wow, you probably want to test these 3 things, and this thing here looks kind of weird. And then if you want to bring your IT guy on the call, they may say, oh, well, how does that work with PHP? And then the WOAC guy will say, okay, this is how you would do it, da-da-da. And then you could never talk to them again, or at least you keep their name, and if you wanted to, you can call on them for more consultations and at a fair rate, or they even provide end-to-end managed services again if you don't want to do it yourself. Regardless, google.com/website optimizer. We have links to the consultants. We have a great help user forum where there's some really hardcore users there that are coming up with really interesting experiments that we never even thought about. Like there was one guy testing the background music, trying to find out what kind of background music would increase the conversion rate. So there's a lot of flexibility with the tool. It's kind of cool. Of course, there's links to help, and then there's links to demos, got case studies, your typical thing there.